The rolling hills of Dorset hold many secrets, shrouded in mist and mystery. Ancient stones whisper of forgotten rites, echoing the voices of those long gone. Crumbling ruins hint at past glories, their stones telling tales of battles and banquets. But few places hold the dark allure of Bettiscombe Manor, a place steeped in legend and lore. This isn't just an old house, it's a fortress of fear, standing tall against the test of time. The manor stands alone. Its stone walls are weathered by centuries of wind and rain, bearing the scars of history. Ivy, like grasping claws, clings to the facade as if trying to hold the manor together. The whole place seems to sag under the weight of its dark history, a history filled with sorrow and secrets. This is a place where shadows linger long after the sun has set, casting an eerie glow, and within its walls a terrifying legend has taken root, growing stronger with each passing year. The legend of the Screaming Skull, a tale that chills the bones. Locals will tell you the stories, each more haunting than the last. Whispered tales pass down through generations, keeping the legend alive. They speak of restless spirits and an ancient curse, a curse that binds the manor and its inhabitants. They say that within the manor's cold embrace, a skull rests, forever bound to the house, never to be moved. And when it cries out, tragedy follows, leaving a trail of sorrow in its wake. The story begins centuries ago, in a time shrouded in mystery and legend. Our journey into this nightmare starts in the 17th century, a period marked by upheaval and strife. England is in turmoil. The Monmouth rebellion tears through the land, leaving destruction in its wake. It is a time of divided loyalties and bloody battles where brother fights against brother. At the heart of our tale is Azariah Pinney, the master of Bettiscombe Manor, a man of considerable wealth and influence. Pinney, a man of wealth and influence, finds himself on the wrong side of the rebellion. His future uncertain. He is a staunch supporter of the Duke of Monmouth, a decision that will have grave consequences. His loyalty will cost him dearly as the rebellion is brutally suppressed. The rebellion is crushed, Pinney's estate is confiscated, his home and possessions taken away. He is imprisoned, his life hanging in the balance, facing an uncertain and grim future. But Pinney has a secret weapon, a glimmer of hope in his darkest hour. A loyal servant, a man who stands by him even in the darkest hour, risking everything for his master. This man, whose name is lost to time, becomes Pinney's lifeline, his unwavering support. He uses his influence to help Pinney escape prison and flee to the safety of the West Indies, a daring and dangerous journey. In the tropical heat of the Caribbean, Pinney rebuilds his life. Years turn into decades. The memory of England fades. Yet, one thing continues to haunt him. The promise he made to his faithful servant. The servant, on his deathbed, had extracted a solemn vow from his master. He wanted to return to his beloved England, to be buried on the grounds of Bettiscombe Manor. Pinney vowed to honour his servant's dying wish, but fate, it seems, had other plans. Time passed. Pinney prospered in his new life, but the promise he made gnawed at his conscience. Eventually he returned to England, bringing his servant's remains with him. He had fulfilled his promise, or so he thought. Upon his return, Pinney discovered that Bettiscombe Manor was no longer his. The estate had been claimed by others. They refused to allow the burial of the servant's remains on the property. Pinney, desperate to honour his vow, decided to inter the remains within the manor itself. He chose a hidden chamber, a secret place within the walls. There he laid his servant's bones to rest. He believed he had finally fulfilled his promise. He believed he could now move on, but he was wrong. His actions had awakened a dormant evil. The servant's spirit, denied his final wish, was not at peace. He had been denied his rightful resting place. His anger, his frustration, began to fester within the very walls of Bettiscombe Manor, and it would soon find a terrifying voice. It began with whispers. Unexplained noises in the dead of night, footsteps creaking on the stairs, the sound of heavy breathing coming from empty rooms. The new occupants of Bettiscombe Manor dismissed it at first. Old houses creaked and groaned. It was only natural, but the disturbances grew more frequent, more intense. Then came the screams, blood-curdling shrieks that echoed through the manor. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The family living there was plunged into a nightmare. Their once peaceful home had become a prison of terror. The screams always seemed to originate from the same area, the section of the manor where Pinny had concealed the servants' remains. The family was at their wits' end. The haunting was relentless. They knew they had to do something. Section 6. The Skull's Revenge. Driven to desperation, the family decided to unearth the hidden chamber. They chipped away at the stone, their hearts pounding with fear and anticipation. Finally they broke through. Inside they found a pile of bones, and among them a skull. The moment the skull was touched, the screaming reached a fever pitch. It was unbearable. Terrified, the family retreated. They sealed the chamber once more, leaving the skull undisturbed, but the damage was done. The haunting continued unabated. Over the years, the legend of the screaming skull of Bettiscombe Manor spread. It became infamous. People whispered of the skull's wrath. They said that anyone who dared to remove it from the manor would face dire consequences, and they were right. Section 7. The Unquiet Remains. Many attempts were made to remove the skull from Bettiscombe Manor. The residents and workers were desperate to rid themselves of the eerie presence that seemed to haunt their every step. Some tried to destroy it, smashing it to pieces. They believed that breaking the skull would break the curse that came with it. Others tried to bury it in consecrated ground, hoping that a proper burial would lay the spirit to rest. But every attempt was met with disaster. The skies would darken and storms would rage, as if nature itself was rebelling against their efforts. Illness, accidents, even death seemed to follow those who dared to disturb the skull. The manor's inhabitants lived in constant fear of the next calamity. One story tells of a skeptical worker who tossed the skull into the nearby pond. He thought he could outwit the curse by hiding it in the water. He scoffed at the legend, believing it to be nothing more than superstition. He laughed at the warnings, confident that nothing would happen. That night a ferocious storm erupted, the likes of which had never been seen before. The winds howled and lightning split the sky. The pond overflowed, flooding the village. Water surged through the streets, causing chaos and destruction. The skull, it is said, was found the next morning on the doorstep of Bettiscombe Manor. It had returned, as if to remind them of its unbreakable bond with the house. The skull seemed determined to stay put. No matter what they did, it always found its way back. It was bound to Bettiscombe Manor, a prisoner of its own vengeful rage. The spirit within the skull would not be silenced. Over time, the family living in the manor learned to coexist with the skull. They accepted its presence as an unchangeable part of their lives. They treated it with respect, even fear. They knew that any attempt to remove or destroy it would only bring more suffering. They knew that to disturb it was to invite disaster. The skull's presence was a constant reminder of the past and the power of the unknown. Section 8. Whispers from the Past. Some say the screaming skull is merely a legend, a spooky story told to frighten children. Others claim it is a real, tangible manifestation of a restless spirit. The debate rages on, fueled by whispers and speculation. Is the skull truly haunted? There are those who offer alternative explanations. Some believe the skull belonged to a victim of foul play. They say the screams are the echoes of their final moments. Others suggest the skull is of ancient origin, perhaps even prehistoric. They claim it possesses a strange energy, a power that defies explanation. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain. The legend of the screaming skull of Bettiscombe Manor continues to captivate and terrify. It is a story that has been told and retold for centuries, each retelling adding its own layer of mystery and dread. Section 9. Dare you face the skull? The screaming skull remains at Bettiscombe Manor to this day, locked away, hidden from view. But its presence is still felt. A palpable sense of unease hangs over the manor, a reminder of the dark secret it holds. Would you dare to visit Bettiscombe Manor, to stand in the shadow of the screaming skull, to feel the weight of its gaze upon you? It is a question that has haunted many a curious soul, a test of courage in the face of the unknown. The screaming skull of Bettiscombe Manor is more than just a spooky tale. It is a reminder that some secrets are best left buried, that some promises, once broken, can never be fully repaired, and that some places are forever marked by the darkness that resides within their walls.